Once you've completed the first step of the alien autograph, you've made every letter in the alphabet A through Z as an alien letters, then go out and try to make out your name. This is Brian. I'm missing one of the triangles. Normally, there's 3 triangles for the B, there's 3 triangles for the R. And if you absolutely have to have that triangle, you could add that triangle onto this rectangle that's part of the letter I, the R-I-A-N. And now this becomes another shape. And it would only look like that. The I would only look like this when it's next to the R. And you can combine those shapes to make the R look more like the R. The I still looks like the I. The I is still here with the I. All right, but now the R is in here, and you can see that these things all kind of line up with how let's actually be a little taller for that particular piece there. So without guidelines, that's what you end up with. So now we're going to talk about, once you decide how you are going to do your actual name for this project, then you have to talk about how to set up guidelines. If there's only 4 letters in your name, then you're going to use this format here, which is 4 inches tall by 2.5 inch wide letters. If you have between 5 to 7 letters, then what you're going to have to do is use a smaller guidelines with 1/2 inch lines instead of 1 inch lines for the guidelines over here. So there's 2 formats that you use, one for 4 letters, and you use this format if you need 5 to 7 letters. So to do the measuring, and it's kind of important to be precise, you lay the ruler. Now these particular rulers, they start right here at this black line. They don't start at the wood. Now we really don't need that, but what I want you to get in habit of knowing that, so that when you line your ruler up on the edge of the paper, you're lining up with that line. So that line here is where the inch and the measuring starts, not at the end of the wood, not at the edge of the paper. This line is lined up at the edge of the paper. So you're going to come down, and let's just try to put it in the middle of the paper. So we're going to start at 2 inches and make a mark. We're going to make a mark at 3 inches. We're going to make a mark at 4 inches. And we're going to make a mark at 5 inches. That's 1, 2, 3. And we're going to make a mark at 6 inches. All right, so it's 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. This gives us our 4 lines for our guidelines. And we're going to do the same thing. We started at 2. So we line the paper up at the ruler up at the other edge of the paper. We lined up this line with the top of the paper, and we're going to make a mark at 2, at 3. Now the longest line on the ruler after the number is the inch line. So that's what I'm looking for, and I make a mark at 4, 5, and 6. All right, once I have all those lines lined up, I'll turn my paper, and these will be my guidelines. My top line, I want to line this line up so I can see the ruler there, and I'm going to line it up to where I can see my mark down here at the bottom of the paper. So once I have that aligned, I'm going to draw a line straight through. It's going to look like this. It's just easier for me to turn my paper to do my lines this way. You won't be able to see the top of the paper, but I guarantee you that I am aligning these measurements up. There's the measurement there, and there's the measurement there. I want to make sure my ruler is right at the top of that mark, and I'm going to draw those lines. Here's our next line. And here is our next line. And this is our last line. So this gives us our four lines for our letters. But now we're going to get a little more complicated because we're going to look for the 1/2 inch line. If the longest line behind the number is the inch line, then this second longest line on the ruler is the half-inch line. So we're going to line our ruler up at the edge of the paper. We're going to align that line right there with the edge of the paper, and we're going to come 1, 2 and a half. There's the half-inch mark. So if we stretch the ruler down again, slide it down, line up that last mark with the first mark on our ruler, we're going to go 2, and there's our half-inch line. We're going to make another mark. We're going to slide the paper down, line it up again with our mark and the ruler, and go to the 2.5 mark and make a line. And we always measure at the top of the paper and the bottom of the paper. We never just go, okay, now I've measured these marks and try to draw a straight line. So you're going to do the same measuring down here at the bottom line, because if you don't have these marks, then your rectangles will be bigger at one end and smaller at the next end. And by making a mark here on this side of the paper and up here, they're going to be an even 2.5 inches apart, each of these rectangles. Now these rectangles, you're going to build your letters inside of these rectangles, and you're building a pattern. We're going to use this pattern to trace over and over again to get our design. So once those lines are aligned, are marked up and measured, align your ruler with them and draw the line. There's your line. There's your first 2.5 inch wide box by 4 inches tall. 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch, 4 inches. So this is if you have 4 letters in your name. If you have 5 letters in your name, you're going to use a pattern that's half this size, and that allows you to get 5 to 7. If you end up to where you have more than 7 letters in your name, we're going to have to add another piece of paper and extend it out for you, and that's easy also to do. So this is for 4 letters only. If you have 5 or 7 letters, you're going to use and do the same thing, except your measurements are going to be in half-inch increments. So you're going to do the same thing. You're going to start off, flip this paper over, you're going to start off with your ruler. You're going to line up your ruler at the top of the page, and wherever you decide to start, we started at 2 inches, then we're going to mark every half inch. So there's half inch, there's 3 inches, there's 3.5, there's 4 inches, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. Just like we had before, we started at 2, we're going to go across the other side of the paper, line our ruler up, we start at 2, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, and that gives us our lines. We're going to go across this way. I'm not going to draw the lines this time. I'm going to draw this top line, and I'm going to draw the bottom line. The other lines can be drawn in later, but it's the same thing. I just did the same thing over again, except these are ½ inch apart instead of 1 inch apart. Now the only other difference is this across the top. You can see I'm lining my ruler up at the edge of the paper where this mark starts, and I go 1 inch to 1.5. Then I can slide my ruler down and go 1 inch to the ½ inch mark is right here, and then I slide the ruler down, and I'm going to go all the way across at 1 and 1/2 inch, all the way across. And I do at the bottom 1.5, move my ruler, 1.5, and then I would go back in and draw all the lines to make my rectangles, and then you're going to end up with a pattern that looks like this for 5 to 7 letters in ½ inch increments. This is the 1 line, 2 lines, 3 lines, 4 lines. There's your middle line. That's where your A in the middle of the B in the middle of the A would be. Once you have that done, you're going to make your pattern. Here is the pattern for Alex. Now, I think this is Alexi. Move this back up. This is Alexi. So there's the A, here's the L, here's the E. This part of the X has been built into or attached to the E. This is the area for the E. and this triangle, there's 4 triangles, 1, 2, 3, are connected to the E, the triangle on this side, and here's the last letter as I for Alexi, and they connected this other triangle to the rectangle that was part of the I. There would normally be a line right here, and a line right here, and a space between these, but they decided to join these together like we did over here with Brian by making this triangle that's part of the R part of this negative space that's part of the I. So whenever you look at these symbols, you're seeing your name. You're not necessarily seeing an R next to an I, but that's what you really are seeing. And that's that would be a pattern. It's important that when you do your pattern that you place these lines here on the top and the bottom. These are where your letters would line up when you do your rows. When you're going to trace this over and over again, you want to line these letters up with the next set of letters that you use. So you need to have these dark lines that help you keep everything aligned when you're using this as a pattern. Once it's all said and done, this is an example of Julianne's artwork that she did. And it's a great pattern. Only thing I would think that I would do differently is where these colors are different and there's a line, I would have eliminated that line and made this whole shape the color. And I would probably use green because this part of the I is green. I'd probably make this part of the J also green in there like that. But she chose to do it that way with this line. I just like this line to be not there, but it's your design. If that's what you want, you can have it that way. Any questions about it? And I always refer everybody back to our secret code. Our secret code is, now get to work.